my idea, my philosophy is that in that first welcome sequence is to pretty much roll out the red carpet for them, explain the benefits of the brand and the product that you have, then make them feel good for being there. Not every company is going to be quirky and cute and things like that. You don't have to, but you need to mention what makes your brand different. That's going to stick. If you do that well enough, then they're going to look forward to the next email and the next email and the next email.
You're listening to Ecomonics, a Debutify podcast, your resource for one-of-a-kind insights into the world of e-commerce and business in the modern age. This is Joseph. I'll be presenting a wealth of industry knowledge from interviews with successful business people and our own state-of-the-art research. Your time is valuable, so let's go. Francis Nayan, it is good to have you here in Ecomonics. How are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Thank you so much, Joseph. I am absolutely stoked to be here. Just been listening to some of your episodes and pretty honored to be here now.
Well, it's an honor to have you. And I guess I just want to pat myself on the back a little bit, let our audience know. So were you listening to our content before we had you booked? Was that my understanding? Well, that's great. So I'll be honest with you, like the booking side of it, sometimes I'm involved, but there's like 100 different things to do. So we do have other people. So did you reach out to us because you wanted to be on the show, or did we still reach out to you?
I reached out to y'all. So, one of my little kind of daily habits is, to always be learning. And sometimes I go on morning walks and I put on like a podcast, or I'm one of those weird people in the gym that I don't listen to music. I may just put on like a nerdy marketing podcast, and I fell into yours, and you guys were definitely with me when I was doing back and biceps a few times.
Okay.
So I was I really like this guy, I like the vibe, and I want to see if I can maybe get on. And
I didn't know that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, I get a lot of messages, and there's a lot of information in, a lot of information out. So maybe we even had a conversation. So I feel bad if I'm like, hey man, it's good to see you again. But anyways, so it is great to have you here, and the honor, we'll say, is mutual, because with each episode that goes by, I get to see a whole new perspective. I get to meet another human being, in a time where everybody is socially reduced. My social circle has increased tenfold. So I'm this is a great start to my Monday morning. I'll say that. All right, let the audience know what you do, and let the audience know what you're up to, because this is going to be a pretty unique conversation. We haven't gone to talk to too many people specifically in your field, so take it away.
Yeah. So, as you said, my name is Francis Nayan. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, but I live currently based in Budapest, Hungary. Been there for 5 years. I am actually right now in Mexico. I've been here for about 5 months. Still working, working my butt off. Still getting on podcasts and speaking. And I'm a freelance email marketing strategist and copywriter. And so I meet and work with e-commerce brands, coaches, consultants, and helping them get the most profit out of their email lists.
And one thing I wanted to ask about, because you say that you're based in Budapest, Hungary, but you're currently living in Mexico. So can you fill our audience in on, I guess, how you would characterize your lifestyle? To what degree are you traveling, especially in a time where travel is, drastically reduced overall?
Yeah. So I guess most people, if they, were to look at my Instagram or something, would call me a digital nomad, which is kind of weird, because I think that the term is a little bit cringy, but then also I wouldn't even call myself very nomadic. I mean, I'm based in Budapest and I spend most of my time there. Occasionally I'll go travel, once a month, every 2 months for a few days here and there. But I usually just stay in one place. And so, I've been in Mexico for 5 months, and that's only came here because Budapest's COVID restrictions were a little too crazy. And so I was I have a friend here in Guadalajara, and I just wanted to kind of, have some walking around space. And but I'm more of just a slow traveler, I guess you could say. And I live in Budapest, so it's not really a vacation for me. I pay rent there, and I pay taxes and things like that.
Right. And the reason why I ask about this is because one of the attractive features of, not just the job shipping lifestyle, but the e-commerce lifestyle, the be your own boss lifestyle, is the ability to have that kind of maneuverability. And I don't know, I wake up in the morning and I'm terrified that my internet goes out. So even though I have an apartment and I have lights and everything, I'm still having that guttural feeling in my stomach that something is going to go wrong. And incidentally, by the way, something did go wrong last week. I woke up and our whole apartment had been knocked out, and I just like, oh well, I got to cancel this interview. Hope the message gets to him in time. And so that really sucks. So the idea for me, being like a lifelong hermit, is how often, if at all, has this particular lifestyle actually been a detriment to your ability to consistently do your job?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things in which I do like a lot of research before I go anywhere. And, sometimes I do have to kind of like spend the money to stay in like a nicer hotel or a nicer just Airbnb or motel that has like semi-consistent, Wi-Fi and things like that. And within the last 2 years, well, especially within the last year, it hasn't been that much of a detriment just because I know how to research. I know what to do. I never go in blindly into a new city or town or country. There are plenty of websites that you can go to in which digital nomads, remote workers, freelancers, they can literally rate the town or the city of, Wi-Fi capabilities or friendliness of locals or affordability or safety and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely leverage those and use them. But I would say, if anyone's listening to this and you're worried about that, definitely join like a Facebook group of the town you're going to, of the expats or locals, and just ask, where's the best place to get Wi-Fi? Does anyone have any suggestions? And it's 2021, so there's a lot of people traveling the world and working, and they know what these people need. So and you'll probably get a good answer, no doubt. And I was just in Puerto Escondido in Western Mexico, and it's like a sleepy beach town. And I asked the question in the group, and they just gave me a bunch of suggestions, and it worked out just fine. So yeah, just definitely just prepare and do your own research.
Yeah, it's not an ideal thing to just go in blind and be like, well, I sure hope I'll be able to find a Wi-Fi or a Starbucks. Now, that said, odds are good eventually you'll come across one. But still, I think that makes a lot of sense. And that certainly helps even clear it up in my mind if I get to that point where I have to move around more often than I am right now, which is, I mean, frankly, it's not at all. So, anything is going to be more than it is at this point. So cool. Maybe I'll ask a couple of other specific ones later on in the episode, depending on how things unfold. But we definitely want to sink our teeth into the email marketing and the copywriting that you do. So we have talked to other people in the email marketing space. In fact, I talked to a fellow named Daniel Budai, who's also in Budapest. Have you met him? Because if not, I'll introduce you to him.
Yeah, me and Daniel, I was actually messaging Daniel like yesterday.
Okay, so
I saw
okay, cool.
he posted something on Instagram, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, I'm going back to Budapest next week. Let's hang out." And so he just
cool.
like my message. So I think that's a yes.
Okay, great. So let's start by talking about, I guess, the in your view, the effectiveness of email marketing. And one thing that I've always specifically wanted to know is, to what degree can email marketing, and by the way, feel free to expand on that if you feel that email marketing isn't fully encapsulating everything that we want to talk about today. To what degree can it be effective earlier on when somebody just starts their business? It seems like the only thing they really do at first is put down some money for Facebook ads or whatever advertising platform that you want to start generating those customers that will then end up on the email marketing list. So it seems like it's hard for email marketing or emailing in general to be further up in the funnel. So but there's a couple of things to unpack there. But so let's start with, what is the effectiveness of email marketing in the market that we currently face?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think email marketing is probably the most important platform that any e-commerce store owner, really any business owner should have. We're in the age of Facebook compliance and rules on social media where your content, these platforms can shut you down for any other reason. But you own your email list, and it's one of those platforms in which it's extremely personal. You can create tailored messages, customized, automations so that you can create a bigger impact on your audience when they join your email list. And, if you're just starting out and you put down the paid ads and you're thinking that's going to be like the one route to success, maybe it will be, if you have an awesome, website, an awesome product and an awesome offer. But having an email list, it helps you build that audience so that you can bring them in, they can grow with you, they can learn more about you. And you can create those little touches to the point where, eventually they will say, okay, I want to try this product. I have a guarantee I'll buy it, see if I like it. And then at that point you have a sale. So I think it's one of those things in which I think it was not many people were really thinking about it several years ago. I think in the last year I've seen, I don't know, maybe it's just my Facebook algorithm or YouTube algorithm, but I think there's like millions of email people, like email experts nowadays. And I think that's because people know that businesses, especially e-commerce stores, need email.
Right. I mean, there's a number of reasons why I can observe that its efficacy has improved. I mean, for one, I think people are far more on their phones now than even a year and a half ago, and I also think that SMS messaging has been an interesting topic, and I've talked to some people who are experts in this space too, and they're going through their own set of challenges because you have what are the preconceived expectations for SMS and or what I expected to see from a text message. And so to have businesses also stepping into that space too, it has reshaped what people are conditioned to expect with getting text messages. So in regards to emails, I think the expectations have, they do start off pretty low, right? People are just expecting like spam, or they're expecting a Ponzi scheme for helping out, a Nigerian prince. So, anything above that is suddenly valuable to it. But one of the challenges, how do you prevent the customer from not reading it, right? I think some of the problem, by the way, is that the email just shows up in the spam folder. So like I've had businesses I've signed up for where then I'll look and be like, wait a minute, no, this isn't junk. What are you doing, Outlook?
Yeah, I mean, it's email deliverability is definitely a very big hot topic. I think that I've seen come up a whole lot more in the last even 6-7 months. Because I mean, I think that's comes with the evolution or like the re-evolution of like the importance of email. And I think you're right with the kind of the preconceived notion that email is spammy. That's why they even have a spam folder, because I think for a long time, email marketing in general was spammy, because you would just get a bit of a churn and burn of offers, or you would get 50% off, 60% off every email from the store owner or something. But that's when you kind of have to change it up, and you have to work a little bit harder to create that kind of engagement and audience, or rather the engagement with your audience. So that's when I kind of come in with creating copy and creating content that hooks readers in and actually makes them think, oh, wow, they're a little bit different. They're kind of quirky. They're pretty fun. They actually sound human. And that's kind of my philosophy when it comes to email marketing and email copywriting, is to sound as human as possible. And when somebody gets that first email in the welcome sequence, they get excited. My job is to condition the reader to be super pumped that they're getting this email, and to kind of just be intrigued and be like, oh, I wonder what they're going to say next. So I think that's something that I've seen a whole lot recently. I mean, I have like a Gmail account that's only swipes. I just go into a bunch of email newsletters and I read them and I just kind of see what people are doing. And I mean, recently I've seen a whole lot of like really quirky, funny content, and I think that's kind of the route that people should be kind of going to.
Yeah, it must be a great for research. All you have to do is sign up for a bunch of these places. You don't have to unnecessarily buy anything. You just sign up for a bunch of newsletters, hoard a bunch of coupons, and you'll see some of the writing, much of the writing coming in, and so things have shifted towards a more personable state. That's somewhat intriguing. So I guess in your analysis, which if you want to define, by the way, how long you've been analyzing this, is when would you say that you've seen somewhat of a shift towards more personable copywriting? And I guess maybe I don't remember, but like, what was it like prior to that point?
I would say within the last 2 to 3 years, definitely within the last 2. I think for a while, the idea was that these emails should be really pretty. They should have these very cool, sexy design. They should have a nice offer. They should be very straightforward. And, I think that's what you still see a lot with the bigger brands like the Gap or the H&M or, companies like that. And so, within the last 2 years, I've seen this kind of more personal approach to it, and it's kind of refreshing. I mean, people want to be entertained. They I think a lot of times when people think of email marketing and they don't want to send out, for example, a bunch of emails to their list, they're like, oh, I'm bothering them. But in reality, if you're entertaining and they're looking forward to your message, you're not bothering them. And so I've been seeing that a whole lot. And I think it's even funny. I think last week I was pretty bored. And I was looking at all these swipes to see what they were doing, and there's all these jokes and kind of like different voices and tones, and I think it's really cool. And I think that's something that everyone should be kind of focusing on nowadays.
Sorry, when you say swipes, I'm not exactly sure if I've unintentionally been participating in swipes all this time. What exactly are the swipes?
Oh yeah, sorry. When I say swipes, I usually just say like, I think I use that as like a blanket term of things that I use to like maybe model or kind of like draw inspiration from. And so when I say like I have like a email swipe account, it's usually just all those emails I signed up for and kind of get inspiration from. I mean, of course, they're like direct response marketers in which they literally have email swipes that they reuse over and over again. But I guess it's kind of like a weird like blanket term for it.
Okay, well, I like it. I was just wondering if it was an institutionalized term that I just hadn't heard yet. Okay, so a lot of what we've talked about, I wonder if this is what you would integrate into what you call it's like c.a.s.h.e or c.a.s.h.e method. So how does that factor in? Is that the all-encompassing philosophy that you use to decide how you write the copy?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I think you're talking about my cash money method. I thought it was a cute name, so I decided to pin it. But the cash money method is pretty much my overall philosophy around email marketing and copy in general. So it stands for copy, automation, segmentation, health, and engagement. And so this is all the things I kind of think about when I'm creating an email strategy, and really just creating the content in general. So I try to make sure that one, that the copy is it pushes the benefits and paints a picture of the benefits for the reader, and make sure all the automations have that, and then we have a very robust set of automations based on the products. And segmentation, who you send the emails to help with deliverability and the custom messages you can create. And then list health, it's just making sure you're not in spam and that you're not neglecting what you can do with the email list. And then engagement, how can you get the reader more engaged, interacting with the email, getting more excited, and not just so much here's 30% off, here's 40% off, or just another. It kind of takes it to another level of how can I get them to actually respond back or participate in something that we're doing. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Emails, even if it is a coupon, it's like, congratulations, you exist. Here's 18% off. Yeah, it can feel like, well, you know what? I think they know that I'm going to take this coupon, and they've enhanced the prices for that. So yeah, I can see where that's not quite enough to really compel people. So out of all of those five, I think segmentation is the one that I could use more, frankly, more guidance on, because my initial reaction is, well, what do you mean by segmentation? It's either people who are on the newsletter or they're not. So is it about the different activity levels of customers? Is it about maybe what products they've purchased? So if some people lean more towards one of our more higher ticket items, they would end up on a different list, whereas people who are more generalized, they might end up on a different list, subscribers versus non-subscribers. So, I mean, this has got to change from like niche to niche. So I don't think there's any one particular rule, but I was actually surprised that segmentation is part of this at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of like what I do, because as you mentioned, the way I segment is I literally take data on everything. So I segment people based on their previous purchase, how often they visited the website, birthdays, countries, if they've opened the email within the last like 21 to 30 days. And it's really helpful for me because, well, one, for a lot of the clients that I work with, they just do a horrible job segmenting. No offense to them, but when I first started working with them, it really was just blasting the whole list, which is, I would assume it maybe like an old school method or maybe like a weird, like kind of churn and burn method. But, I found out that by segmenting the list and having all of this data, then you can create automations, you can create manual campaigns, to where the point where they're more sophisticated, and you can create different messages, different offers to these segments. So, for example, if you're somebody who you have an e-commerce store and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to send out 3-4 emails a week, or even send out 2 emails a week or something, then you can use these segments so you can send messages to different people. So then you're not blasting the whole list. And then that helps with not just getting more sales in, but then also helping your email deliverability. So you're not ending up in spam, because if you're sending to a smaller list and these people are opening and you're getting a higher open rate because it is a smaller list, then the algorithms, these filters will recognize, oh, this email sender is valuable because their emails are getting read. So I'm going to make sure they land in the primary folder. And so that helps out with that a whole lot. And segmentation, it kind of goes into, I can write different kinds of copy and create certain content just for that list. So it makes it a lot more fun too. So I can definitely speak for an entire hour around segmentation, because I can be really nerdy about it. But yeah, I think it's a super important part of email marketing, and that's why I like talking about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd like to hear more about it. Not really, like you say, you can go on for an hour. So I'm like, okay, so out of that hour, what would be some of the questions somebody asks? So I think one of them would be the aspect of collecting the data in the first place. So you're saying, for instance, I can segment this somewhat based out of birthdays. I can segment it somewhat based out of maybe age range, or even gender, or even what part of the country or what part of the world that they live in. So how exactly are, between you and between your clients, how is the data being collected so effectively?
Yeah. So, one of the number one, I'm not a partner. I feel like I should be. So I'm going to bet they'll just promote the name of it. But I mean, I think Klaviyo, which is an email service provider, it's so robust, and they help you. They even do, it's so easy to segment, and it's so easy to create forms and to gather this data. I mean, I was just speaking with a client the other day, and I just onboarded them, and they were completely new to Klaviyo, and they're like, oh, well, we have this, UK list and US list. Like, how do we create that? And I was like, do we have to ask, where everyone's from, and collect it that way? And then what happened was we looked into the Klaviyo, and we found out, exactly where everyone was from. There's like a geotag thing there. You can turn it on or off. And so you can use the software, depending on, your ESP. Maybe you don't use Klaviyo, maybe you use OmniSend or Maripost or something like that. So you can really get this data through the softwares that you use. And of course, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different plugins and integrations that you can use to help gather this data. And so it's one of those things also, it can be really overwhelming. So you kind of have to pick maybe 1 or 2 things at a time. And of course, not overwhelm your audience if you're looking for a certain kind of data. So, if you have an opt-in, it's probably best not to have name, phone number, age, male, female, country. And you're like, oh man, I feel like I'm, buying airline tickets or something. I'm just trying to buy a t-shirt. So it's, you can definitely use a lot of plugins and integrations to help out with that.
Yeah, it could be somewhat uncanny too to get an email saying, "Hey, Joseph from Sussex, 982 Everwood Street." My improvisational skills, they don't really kick in until around noon. But so I can see how that might be a little bit, okay, hang on a second. They just took what I filled in, making it seem like, so yeah, I can see that. So actually, one other thing, I wonder if this is a part of it. So I'm going to take the long route to ask this question so you can understand my thought process, because one of the key things about market research is, that first wave of ads that people send out is often to understand what their audience is, so they can redefine some of the parameters, narrow down the interests, and get closer and closer to the bullseye. And so what I would wonder in regards to segmentation is if there's ever been a means and a need to re-segment, where, say, over time, the characteristics or the qualities of the customers, they become more known because you start to have a higher degree of interaction. And so you say, well, you know what? We used to segment them based off gender, but now we don't actually need to do that. Now we can segment them based off of what time of the day they get up, more specific to my product. So is that Am I just pulling this out of thin air, or have you seen examples of re-segmentation as the information becomes more refined?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I guess resegmentation could be the word. I mean, I think maybe no segmentation is like, I mean, I've just discovered sometimes where I segment something and I get data and I'm like, all right, this actually does not even matter at all. Like, one thing that's recently happened was kind of segmenting male or female for this particular brand that I was working on. And I was like, should I create like a different tone? Should I mention like certain different interests? And then I realized that I was just coming off like super cheesy and that the results actually didn't matter. I mean, who knows? Maybe my copy wasn't that great. I thought it was pretty good, but then yeah, there's just some times in which it's the data doesn't really, it's not going to be as super as effective. I mean, I think it's good to have, but I think it's like in the 80-20, the rule. Eventually you find, the most important things that you need to focus on and that cause the most impact. So yeah, I've done that before and I still do that. It's part of the evolution of kind of making the research more sophisticated is that you realize certain things don't really matter. And you got to focus on, the handful, 2, 3 things maybe of the things that matter most and create your messaging to garner that.
Okay, and then one more follow up to that would be, and I suppose this is another one of those matters where it's a case by case basis, but determining for what are the things that matter the most, because like you said, basing it off of gender, which is a pretty substantial part of the human construct, ended up not really being relevant to it. So I guess some of that has to do with the brand appeal, with the product, the target market. So how are people figuring out what are the important parameters by which to, if necessary, segment their customers?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing that sticks out to me is just definitely what they purchased in the past, and what are how can we upsell certain people to, if they had gotten, we've seen that certain people buy this product and then also buy this one, then perhaps then we should create an automation that has a really good upsell to, product A to product B. And, that's helped me a whole lot kind of create that AOV, help me create, just boost more revenue for my clients, just so we know, and sometimes it can be really surprising because the client will think, oh, I love this product. It's super kick ass. Like, I think we should promote the hell out of it. And then in reality, it's like not that big of a hitter at all. And, they're not getting that many sales from it compared to other ones. So things like customer behavior is super important, and countries, of course. So there are ways, especially in Klaviyo, that you can just easily like segment it and also send emails to these people based on, I kind of consider the weather if I'm selling like a clothing product or something or something like that. But yeah, just to make sure that they get the emails on time and that we're not sending all the emails at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's middle of the day their time, or 3 a.m. their time. So it's yeah, I think those are the first two things that kind of come to mind right now.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't have thought that the time of the day that the email is sent is relevant, but then I realize how my mood changes over the course of the day. Like if I get an email early on in the morning and I'm still getting warmed up for the day, I might not be so keen on opening it. Maybe later on in the day or during lunch, while I'm already distracted on my phone. Like, oh, okay, I got an email. So yeah, there's a lot of specificity to it. The most specific thing that I can think of is a parallel to, say it's a rainy day. And I'm in the Shoppers Drug Mart, our local pharmacy chain. I'm like, oh, I forgot my umbrella. Well, it's either $10 for an umbrella or pneumonia. So I guess I'll go with the umbrella. So if like somebody looks at the weather and they say, well, it's going to be a week worth of rain, send out an email to saying, hey, rain coming up. Maybe now might be a good time to get yourself one of these umbrellas, provided they arrive in time. But that's a whole different matter.
Yeah, that'd be crazy if like you started sending out emails based on like weather predictions. It's like, oh, you're in Budapest. It's supposed to be 30 degrees and sunny. Make sure you have sunscreen because we sell sunscreen or something. I think I haven't gotten that level yet. Yeah. I'm sure there's someone out there who's listening to this and they're like, you fool, you should be doing that. So maybe in the next, I don't know, 3 months, I'll talk to my team and we can work on that.
Yeah, well, it's like it's. I mean, I'm saying that with at least some hint of irony, but it comes down to, as the communication technology progresses and it becomes, I think, more easier and more. We're just that there's less resistance to receiving messages. People become more aware of it. I don't know. I'm thinking it gets to the like Minority Report point where people are walking down the street and an ad pops up and say, "Mr. Jones, here's what we have in mind too." So that's just me going off into fantasy territory. We'll table that for, I don't know, 6 years. We'll come back. We'll see what situation we're in. Hopefully we have jetpacks. Anyways, so we got to, obviously we want to talk about the content of the emails itself. That's massive. That's key to it. So the first challenge, I suppose, is, and we touched on this earlier, so you have to forgive me for restating it. I do try to avoid this as much as I can, but trying to initially get people's interest. So we've established some of that has to do with, the higher the open rate, the more likely that it's not going to end up in spam. I think some of it is also the email inbox is doing some pre-guarding on its own. So it's maybe like Google or Outlook or something like that. They're having this own look at it and they're saying, this is actually kind of sus, and it goes into spam, even because I know for a fact that they've screwed up a number of emails, some of which has been very important. Hearing from friends, even hearing from some companies where I've had orders. I think I can't prove this, but I think one time Outlook actually thought an email from Microsoft was spam. So I don't know, these things, I can't prove that one, but I don't know, that just came to my mind. So at the very least, provided that there's a key detail that I missed, where emails can actually end up in an inbox even though somebody hasn't gone to the website, maybe you can touch on that. That'd be great. But if not, don't worry about it. But people have, they signed up, they provided the information, they are expecting an email. So how, starting with the subject line, what goes into the subject line to make it appealing enough to want to open it up?
Yeah. Well, so if someone opts into your list and they're obviously going to go through like a welcome sequence of some sorts, or at least I hope so. I've definitely opted in to some lists and I haven't even gotten like a welcome sequence. So first of all, anyone listening to this, make sure you have a welcome sequence subject line and make sure it's relevant to why they opted in the first place. Maybe it's a discount, maybe it's a free PDF, ebook, something like that. So make sure that the subject line is relevant to why they opted in. But then the content itself should be way more than just here's your free PDF, here's your 10% off discount, here's whatever. This first email, this is your first impression. This is your time to make an impact on your reader and have them be like, whoa, okay, they're different, they're cool, maybe they're interesting, or they can help me. So that's a really important mindset to have when you're writing the copy for your first welcome sequence, because it's just a human to human interaction almost. Of course, it's an automation, so not necessarily fully human. But imagine you're going to a party and you meet someone and you think they're cool. You exchange information. One, are you guys like hitting each other up in a decent amount of time, maybe the next day or 2 days later? Or are you just waiting like a week to say anything? And then two, what's the first interaction that you have? Is it just like, hey, do you want to jump into bed with me? Or, hey, give me $10? No, you want to create that rapport. You want to create that connection from the beginning. So my idea, my philosophy is that in that first welcome sequence is to pretty much roll out the right project for them, explain the benefits of the brand and the product that you have, and then make them feel good for being there. So, of course, not every company is going to be quirky and cute and things like that. You don't have to be, but you need to mention what makes your brand different. Why are you so unique that people like you in the first place? And that's going to stick. If you do that well enough, then they're going to look forward to the next email and the next email and the next email, especially if you're able to set their expectations and literally tell them, like, because you're on this email list, you're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5 daily emails a day. I don't know, depending on what your strategy is. And then, kind of creating a connection between all of the emails. So, and that helps you kind of condition them to look forward to your next emails. So then your open rates do go up. So then your sender reputation goes up. So then you're landing in more primary inboxes. So then people see more of your emails. So then you make more sales. And then, I just think it's super important in that first email to make the impression.
So you know what? I didn't know that was a thing, to be honest with you. And this, I get loads of emails, so I'm sure I've encountered it a number of times, but I do have my own store. You've been a listener, so you do know kind of like little bits and pieces of my journey. My store is coming along. I'm still testing out the remaining of my product before I market it and all that. And I honestly would have thought that somebody signs up for the newsletter, they are just going to be the recipient of whatever happens to be the next email in the sequence, because I would just have my email newsletter maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks, whatever the plan was. I wouldn't have thought to provide a welcome email to them now that they've become a little bit more closer with the brand. So that right there is fantastic. Now, would you consider that an automation to the point where okay.
Definitely.
And I guess one other thing, I'm not asking so much about whether or not this is a good idea, although feel free to touch on that if you if your expertise can speak to it. But I guess I would want to also have different welcome sequences depending on how I've acquired the email. Like, for instance, if somebody just signs up for the newsletter, they get the coupon, but they haven't purchased anything yet, I feel like the email sequence for them might be a little bit more introductory into the brand, into the mission. Whereas if somebody has made a purchase and then they so they sign up with their email, I think there's a little bit more warmth there. And so the customer, they've already purchased. And so I say, well, thank you for your support. A, is that worthwhile? And B, is Klaviyo, which it seems to be the email marketing app du jour, is that set up so that I can actually target two different areas where people come through the door? Yeah,
definitely. You can definitely do that. I mean, it's all about just creating the form and also creating that has to do. I'm about to fail kind of explaining this tech side. I've seen like my assistant do it and I've done it a few times, but it's hard for me to explain. So basically, because Klaviyo has your data, then when you go to their website, you can create different pop-ups depending on your behavior. So if you're a past purchaser, then the pop-up that comes up can be different compared to someone who hasn't purchased at all. And that's actually a really cool way for brands that I've seen do. And I've seen other experts explain this, that when a former purchaser comes back to the site and they get this new pop-up of like, oh, it's our June sale or something, then it's like just another way to create, another piece of engagement they put in their email list that shows that they're more, they're very interested, even if they bought before, and they care enough to like try to get a code, and they want to put their email in to get the code and things like that. So you can definitely do that in Klaviyo, because you can make it to where if someone signs up, you can filter them out of like a past purchaser. Yes, no, yes, send them to this branch of the sequence. If they're yes, if they have purchased, then send them to the other branch. So you can definitely do that, and I think it's very good. I mean, I know that's actually not super, super, super common. I think a lot of stores, they definitely don't do that. I think they should, especially if they're trying to be more brandy and try to be a little more different and robust. But yeah, if you have the creativity to do that and you want to, anything that kind of creates like a tailored kind of custom message, I think is invaluable, and you should do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the the fight in within the brand, or who's running it. If especially if they know they're getting into a niche where there are some huge Goliaths in that particular niche, and well, that's basically any niche really. The more that they're willing to do that, I'm certain that would provide a lot more of an individual yield for each individual customer if they really feel like they're getting something particular to them. So there's a whole branch of different ways that I can take this. There's certainly a lot more to ask. So let's get into, I guess, the the meat of the copy itself. So some of the things we've touched on, just to reiterate, you don't necessarily have to be quirky. There are different vibes, I guess, that you can convey in it. What would you say are some of the more common ones that you've seen, and I suppose have written yourself. And I guess as a writer, like I see myself as a creative writer too. You know, I've dabbled in it throughout my entire life, so I know that there's a range to my writing style in the same way that a singer has range to their voice. So, do you feel that you have a range with it as well, or is there certain styles that you have a little bit of a harder time adapting?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I think when I was like a big agency writer, then I was going into like different niches, different voices and tones, and I was able to really stretch myself as a writer to see what I can do. There are some things I definitely can't do just because there's certain vernacular, certain words that um, the demographic uses that I don't really know. For example, like golf. I mean, I tried. I have a golf client right now, and I'm doing my best to sound like I play golf. I've never swung a golf club before or anything like that. So, that like using like certain vernacular and using it like correctly can be a little bit tough for me, honestly. But the ways that I have succeeded is when um, the company I'm writing for, there's a bit of a brand persona and there's an actual name and person to it. So a lot of e-commerce businesses that I've worked with, they use like, Jesse, the customer success manager or the expert or like the customer happiness expert or something.
Yeah.
They try to get really cute with it. And so kind of writing where you're taking on the persona of like an actual like human being, then that's actually a lot easier because then you can throw in a little bit more personality in there, but you also have a lot of cushioning and forgiveness to where if you're not 100% on all the time, then it's just like, oh, well, maybe Jesse, the customer happiness expert, was just a little down that day or not as happy or something. So it adds a bit of more of a human element to it. I think I've really succeeded doing that. And I like doing that. It's really fun. I think it can be pretty difficult when you're just speaking as the brand because there's no introduction of like this is a person. It's like we are this company, and it can get pretty boring. So, and I've noticed that sometimes I filter out the same like words and things like that. So, but it's all about just doing your research to seeing what the customers, what do they like about the product, what do they don't like, why they bought the product in the first place. So that comes in a whole lot with the research, and sometimes I've surprised myself with how well I've written in a certain voice, and sometimes I'm totally disappointed in myself, like with golf, for example.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I was fighting the urge to not to get into my repertoire of golf puns. Just the one I was about to say, when I had to stop myself from saying it in context, because it does take a while to get into the swing of things, but have to have drive. See, they just okay. Sorry.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that one.
Yeah. It's all good. I may or may not have teed you up for that. Anyways, so see, it's just once they start, I can't fight it. I guess this is like a semantical question, but does anybody, do the clients, do they read the email before it goes to the audience just to make sure that they're copacetic with it because they can provide notes? Because I figured like, especially if it was an area that I hadn't had any prior experience, not even like Wii Sports or golf or something like that. Like, I feel like I would really want the client to look at this first before it goes out to the masses.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's part of my process. Just because I do have my own writing style, and sometimes that bleeds into, let's say, the first few emails that I write. So I always get their feedback on how I can improve. What am I doing? Because sometimes I think I'm absolutely killing it, and I'm like, this is like so great, it's so good, and they're like, yeah, we don't use this word, or like that's way too happy, or don't use this exclamation mark. Sometimes it can be too like to the point where they're like, don't use that exclamation mark there. It's too much. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. So, yeah, I try to get it. And sometimes I get like, client conversations in which I explain to them why we do this or do that. So, because several of the clients I've worked with in the past, they're like, oh, I want to be very straightforward and things like this. But then maybe I think it might hurt their brand. They're just too short, and then to add just a little bit more context and copy. So it's definitely part of my plan, is just to make sure the client's happy.
From experience, has there been a situation where like the client had disagreed with something, but then you made a compelling case why like your expertise actually managed to have the final say compared to their take on the matter?
Yeah, it's definitely happened. It never happens in just like one meeting. especially, the clients in which they were writing their own stuff before, and they are very adamant on kind of like keeping it, and they have a hard time letting it go and
Yeah.
letting me, do my work. It has happened, and I always test it. I say, let's just test it. If you believe your way is better than mine, let's just do a 50-50 split on an automation or a set of emails, and let's see what works. And I typically win. Sometimes I lose. Maybe 1 out of 10 times I lose. But it's something that, as long as we can test it, then I'm happy. It's like at the end of the day, I want it to work. I want this part of their business to succeed. So I say, we can test it. If I lose, I lose. At least we're making more money for you guys. So
well, that's a great solution to the issue, is just to split test it and just say, well, why don't we just try both ways, and we'll see what ends up getting the better yield.
Yeah. And they're always open to it. I mean, Ogilvy said, always be testing things. So we just go by that method, and we'll see what works.
And one of the things, one of the terms that I'd seen is, when you're writing emails, is to make them evergreen, to really endow them with that long-lasting quality. And the reason why I personally find this is important is because, well, some of the podcasts that I listen to, they're like my daily dump of information and news. And I've never deleted their email, because anytime that a subject is brought up, I can pull up their email and just scan through them, because they have links to different news articles. And so it's a great reference material. So some of these are going to last me for years and years and years, just because you never know when I'm going to have to pull up a certain something. So when you say, evergreen, like what is the length of time that, this content is going to hold water in the long run?
Yeah. I mean, when I say evergreen, it's usually just something that long-term is just the main word. Eventually things change, the market changes. We're talking about re-segmenting. Maybe we want to focus on another segment that fits a certain voice. It's really until we see a certain dip in the results, and then at that point we kind of take a step back, go back to the drawing board, and start testing out more things. So, but it's mainly more about focusing on the automations and seeing how, these can actually stay up for long, much longer. So anytime that I've had welcome sequences that were absolutely killer, 90%, open rate, absurd place order rate. And then 6 months later, it like goes drastically down for some reason. And so it's something that we kind of strive for forever, but we know that's unrealistic. But, it's the goal that we have, that, is there a way that we can create an automation or something that can be, the control, as we say in copywriting, for as long as possible, hopefully forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and again, just going back to some of the other emails that I've received, I will say personally, a lot of the times I don't read them, but I know that I've got them storage. So one that I'm happy to give an example to is Manta Sleep. I love my sleep mask, and I've been using it for a couple of years now. I do wash it, even if I forget to wash it more often than I should, but that's a different case. And they provide a lot of information on sleeping, and I've read some of them, but I haven't read all of them, but they're all there. And so, one of these days I might just like go through all the emails and just do like a 3-hour session just on studying all of this. So, I mean, some of this will, and I'm afraid that some of the stuff can't be tracked on the user end, because I don't think that there's, other than the open rate, like I guess you would have to see, all of a sudden he opened up a bunch of these, but we're talking about like 3 years down the line, possibly. So a lot of that can't be discovered, but I think it just does speak to the overall importance of, making the copy, be worthwhile of somebody's time, even if they don't get to it right away.
Yeah, definitely. And you can also you can also track, what are people clicking on in the emails, and maybe there's certain blogs that you are like promoting, they're showcasing, and that like you notice that there's a lot more clicks on it in the past, and sometimes there's like an absurd amount, and you're like, oh, I guess people really like that type of content. I'm going to make sure that's in my evergreen sequence. I'm going to put that in my welcome sequence. So it is something that you can take a look at and see like, oh, that's really popular. I'm going to use that maybe forever, or at least keep using it because it's a hitter. So always be looking at your analytics.
Have you seen people say like, because I guess this would be tempting if I was writing a blog and a newsletter, I might just want to like repurpose the content. Have you seen people do that where they get their blog content turns into email or email turns into blog content? I guess if it were me and I just wanted to repurpose the material, I would send it out as an email, but then maybe like in a couple of months I would repurpose it as a blog just to have the content there. I don't know. Have you seen people do that? Because that to me seems like a good use of the content, but I don't know if that might come across as trying to like, stretch the value there a little too thin.
Yeah, no, it's I know repurposing is huge, and I definitely see that in crazy ways. I've seen people write, an email that was also a blog post, and they're gonna maybe structure it around so then they can use it as like a Facebook post, and then something that we'll put it on LinkedIn. And then if it's like really good, they'll just save all of the stuff they ever repurposed and then turn it into an ebook. And then, then the ebook will, instead of just being an ebook, they'll record the voice. So then now it's an audiobook. And then it's literally like, it can be pretty intricate and pretty impressive, because I've definitely read blogs or even like a YouTube ad. Actually, I wrote like a YouTube ad for a client of mine, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to use this for my email list too." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I found out, he was using it for his ebook, and he posted it on his LinkedIn, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, it's all over the place. And so I definitely see that. I think it's really smart. Of course, eventually, if you have like a super fan, they're like, he uses like everything like all the time, the same things all the time, then it can get pretty tired. I mean, it's happened to me. I'm not a super fan. It's happened to me before. And so, but yeah, I think it's pretty smart.
Yeah, well, once you get past the value, you start to understand that this is a business, and it's not. Me from my perspective, it wouldn't just be like I'm just trying to be cheap about it and just try to recycle content. It's more of a motivation to make the content in the first place, knowing that there is a lot of routes that the content can take down the line. It does remind me of like. We hear about this story once in a while where they see a stand-up comedian for the first time, and they see their 30-minute set and like, oh, this guy's great. And then they come back maybe like the next week and he does the exact same material. It's like, well, but I thought he says something different every time. Like, we don't want to base too much of the market off of that side. But it's just an interesting observation, because that the people who are there to discover it are always the people who will get the most of a reaction to it. So it's always the people in that discovery phase that I think are the most important people to reach out to. Once you get people who are like, they start to understand and they see past the veil, probably a different means to communicate with them.
Yeah, I think that's when segmentation is key.
Exactly.
And you need to start creating a different message, different content.
So I looked at your blog because you are a writer, of course. So looking at your blog would be a worthwhile use of my time. And I'm about to use a term that will explain why, other than the 12 times somebody's dropped an F-bomb, not that I'm keeping specific track or anything, but this is why we don't bother with the safer kids one. But the term marketing incest, I thought was like, it's a pattern interrupt. I certainly, okay, well, this is a potent term. Let's have a look at that. If I were to, I think in my view, I'm like, I wonder if I would call it marketing inbreeding or marketing incest. But either way, it's certainly an important thing that we need to keep in mind. So explain to us what this concept is, and the dangers behind it.
Yeah, for sure. Marketing incest. That was a popular one. Speaking of repurposing, that was actually an email I sent to my list, and I just repurposed it into a blog post. So evergreen reading. So marketing incest is basically the idea of like using other people's stuff, their other content, and repurposing it as yours. So not repurposing it as the way that we were just talking about it, but more just in a way stealing it and just using it as your own, and kind of using as a template. And you kind of use it as a template. And it's something that I kind of thought of because I'm not a big social media guy, but when I would go on like Facebook or something and see all these business owners, and they would just start posting like the same type of stuff, the same stories, the same questions, and I would go to my emails and read different emails that people are sending out, and they're all sounding the same. It's, for example, like the May the 4th holiday we had. We probably had a bunch of emails that said May the 4th be with you.
Yeah,
and it's basically just using the same stuff that everyone's doing, and I just call that marketing incest because it's just like a mashup of content DNA to create something that's very, I don't know, ugly. Probably not the right word. I think I got lost in my words there. But basically, it's the way I describe people just being really boring and using the same stuff over and over again. And that's always a big problem with me because I want to be entertained. I'm a consumer as well. And so that's why the way I create emails and write copy for my clients is to make sure it's away from the incest, and instead make it more individual, make it more unique, make it very different to the point where, like, if somebody were to swipe this, then they would know it was stolen from this certain brand. So that's my whole philosophy around it. And that's marketing incest. So yeah, just be as unique as possible with your brand.
Right.
And
I think this isn't just about, wanting to be unique for uniqueness sake. It's also about fending off, I think, other people's desire to take our quality content, because someone somewhere thought of May the 4th, which, Disney is more powerful than most governments. So I would be surprised if at some point it actually manages to be like a full on holiday. We're bringing back Spike TV for the day. We're just going to run Star Wars on it. So, but it's about constantly being at the creative forefront of what it is that we're doing. And so while all these other people, they might rip off something that we written 3 months ago, the brand has continued to evolve and change and provide more insight for the audience. And so I think that's part of the motivation too. Isn't just like, just to be unique for uniqueness sake, but it's also like, this is how you prevent being perceived as the one doing the ripping of the offing, because if somebody else happens to see that content first, then they see ours and they think, well, hold on a second, who thought of it? So that's one that I can think of, but I'm wondering if there's other tactics or methods that people have devised to kind of like keep these leeches at bay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really depends on the product and the service or something. It's I've seen a lot, especially in slightly away from e-commerce. I've seen a lot of it in the biz op niche or the dating niche, where they're basically just saying the same thing over and over again, and they're kind of losing the point of explaining the unique mechanism of their company. And so it's just something that's kind of it's a bit of a plague. I think I've even put that in my blog post. It's like, I think I've seen a plague going on in the marketing world or something. I think I just watched Contagion like the day before I wrote that or something. So but yeah, I think it's a gem that it's something that I see like all the time. And even though I wrote a blog post about it, it's still happening. So I know it's not life-changing, but it's I just see it everywhere.
Right. Well, I guess the good news of it is that people are doing this, and so it is the opportunity to stand out. In order to have a pattern interrupt, there has to be a pattern first. So for those who can capitalize on it, more power to them. The other thing is funny too, is you mentioned dating apps, and one part of this that made me think about, like, I don't know what the intention was when they started Tinder, but Tinder certainly created a reputation for a certain form of, a relationship, the kind that, don't last very long. Oh boy, there was a double meaning there if there was ever unintended double meaning, but there you go. So I do think some of it also has to do with how the brand is perceived and how they might want to recognize how people see them, and then re-adopt their messaging a little bit more to that, because sometimes you have a mass of about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who are all communicating among one another and almost like deciding the brand for them. So I'm just wondering if you've seen examples of like that, where the brand really shifted in a natural way based off how the audience was interacting with them.
Yeah. I mean, I think I see that. I definitely see that every few months. And I definitely look at my email list and I'm like, oh, okay, things are definitely different here. I guess just to go back to the dating thing. I mean, there was a company that I used to work with back in Budapest, and they weren't really doing anything with their email list. And it was if they did send something, it was very, very basic, 150 words maybe. Now, just recently, I've noticed that they're more like story based, and they're using more examples of their students' success and things like that. So I definitely do see like little changes here and there. And I think that's just like the evolution of any business, really. I mean, and I see that in e-commerce brands as well, in which maybe they were quite young when I first fell upon them. But then, as a year, maybe two comes around, their website, their emails start to look a little bit more sophisticated, and their copy has a bit more personality to that. So it's definitely it's a good thing, I think, and it's quite common. And I think you should also be trying to create some type of evolution in your business every year,
Yeah,
especially in your messaging.
certainly to be open to it. Like, there's a fine line between forcing it upon the brand, but also being too resistant to what is a natural evolution of it. So there's certainly a balance between those 2 points. Now, with that said, I ain't got you for very much longer, but I feel like we've established like 12 threads, and there's a whole bunch of other things that we can get to. So, if you want to give yourself a quarter or two, and then come back on the show, pick up where we left off, I would love to have you back. But with the little time that I have you left, the last thing that I want to hear about is, I guess, really just how you got into copywriting, because you're doing very well. You have a great deal of freedom, and I don't know exactly how many hours a week you work, but you seem to be pretty happy with the amount of hours that you have. So, how did you get to this point exactly?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of a crazy kind of a thing. I mean, I used copywriting as a way to feel freedom. And so it's one of those things that I kind of feel like it was kind of, I had to do. Several years ago, I think if you go to my blog, you join my email list, you hear about, I guess, the darker past of Francis Nayan. We're dealing with addiction and things like that. And so when you're an addict, you don't have that much freedom. So I think when I was getting into my 20s, I was clean. I was, I wanted freedom. So when I first fell upon copywriting when I was in my second year of teaching in Budapest, and I realized I did not like to teach. I wanted to do something completely different. And so I went online looking up, how to make money online, of course, typical thing, and fell upon a bunch of stuff, didn't know what to do. And then I actually ran into a German guy at a bar, and he was 20 years old, traveling the world. And I'm like, what do you do? You're 20, you're not even in school, you don't have a degree. Like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a copywriter. And I was like, what's that? Like, are you a lawyer? I thought it was like copyright infringement, of course. And no, he's like, no, I sell products with like written text. And as a writer myself, back then, I still consider myself a writer, more like journalistic style. I was intrigued. And so I just asked him, I was like, how do I learn how to do this? Where do I begin? He just gave me a bunch of, resources. Finn Lobson, if you're listening to this, it'll make me proud, man. But that's how I started. And then I think like a month later, I just decided to go all in. I didn't even have a laptop. I just bought like a really crappy $200 laptop on like Facebook Marketplace, and just, I was just like hustling, trying to get any type of work. But then it kind of became, my evolution was like, I just fell upon the email marketing agency, started to, everyone was telling me to niche down. So decided to focus more on email and learn the software along the way. And it's grown to what it is today.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, and I really wanted to get that question in before I get you on out of here, just because there are a number of routes that people can take, all of which here in Ecomotics, all of which have to do with e-commerce. But it's been quite a few interviews, and I've talked to copywriters. I've talked to people mostly on like representing agencies such as Daniel Budai, but just to hear what you're up to on an individual level, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's very encouraging for anybody who's got that creative bent, even myself included. I certainly look forward to being able to use my writing to convey my brands. So that's certainly in the cards for me. But it is great to hear that this kind of work is not only there, but it's also, I'm going to say lucrative, but I really do mean that in however the most positive way lucrative can be conveyed.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's copywriters, they do have a certain amount, a good amount of freedom, and they make a good amount of money, especially if you're in the right circles and you write well. If you're a good writer, the great high paying clients who, even require you to work less are going to find you.
Exactly. All right. Well, I know we got to get you on out here, so we'll wrap it up here, and then, like I said before, more than happy to have you back. It does mean a lot to know that like over time people are finding the show, and are not only is it people are just an audience, but also people who have elevated themselves to a higher level. So again, I just it's certainly kicked this Monday off to a good start. So yeah, I really appreciate that. And the last thing is just let the audience know how to find you. And you probably know what I'm also going to ask, because you're a long time listener or whatever. Medium term, short term, I don't know. I didn't ask that part. Point is, if you have any final words of wisdom or a preferred proverb or anything along those lines, feel free to share. And then, like I said, let the audience know how they can reach out to and learn more about you.
Yeah. I mean, I think my one little piece of advice is just to, keep growing your mindset, keep trying to figure out how to push through anything that's really stopping you, and that's you stopping you. So do your research, read some books, talk to a mentor. And yeah, take care of yourself. And yeah, you can keep up with me at, join my email list at storiesandcopy.com. I'll send you a free copy of my ebook, also called The Click Rate Code, if you join. And I send emails to my list about 2 to 3 times a week about different stuff about copywriting, email marketing, traveling, anything that's really on my mind. So yeah, stay in touch with me there.
All right, and to our audience, if you happen to be like Francis and you are in this space as well, I demand that you reach out to us. So podcast@debutify.com. And to everybody else, there are 100 million things that you can do in this space. And we've only just scratched the surface of what there is. So whatever route you think is best for you to take, there is a route in here for you. So we hope that we have already helped you discover that, or we will continue to do that for you. So all the best, take care, and we will check in soon.
Audience looks at this interview, they will be thinking, what if Elric Ong interviews all these other successful people, and now Elric Ong...
Hey, this is Joseph from Ecommerce. Just wanted to thank you for being here and for giving this content your time and attention. I hope you learned something. I can say with certainty, I have learned something with every episode that I have done, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's a couple things you can do to help us out. If you want to check out the audio content, we are available on all major podcast platform distributors. And while you're there, give us a 5-star review. It helps a lot. And while you're here on YouTube, there's a lot of things you can do to help out as well. It's not going to take very long. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button for this episode, and hit the notification bell so when we have new content for you, it's going to be at your doorstep ASAP. Lastly, this podcast is created by Debutify, the best Shopify template available. It is 100% free for you to start, and it can change your life. It can make you so much more free than you are right now. So if this episode wasn't enough to convince you, I think a few more might do the trick. So have at it.